we've been co-laboring together as one, trying to establish this particular thought. Two words that came to my consciousness a few weeks ago is let us. So we dissected a few. It would be to your advantage. You want to have an advantage as far as it relates to connected covenantally. Part 2 is phenomenal. Yeah, I had a chance to listen to it a little bit of this morning. And I'm not saying it because I said it or I taught it, but the information the Lord has given me is probably about a decade of information that can change some of the ways we think. As we dissected 2 Kings 6. And it was a lot in there. I just kind of just took the fat off and went straight to most of the meat. But, and I believe that was point number 4. Matter of fact, point number 4. Over in 2 Kings 6, 1-7, we established the first 3 points as number 1, there was a union, a convergence of sorts in the beginning, out of Genesis 1:26-28. Then we talked about, we stopped over at the Tower of Babel and the confusion, and we kind of correlated it to humanity as a whole searching out after God and trying to reach God. God already reached to us in the person of Jesus Christ. That was in Genesis 11, 1-9. And then we spent time over in Psalms 2, verse 1-3. And we went over to Acts 4, which was phenomenal as we kind of connect the dots with Psalms 2 and verses 1-3. Talked about how they wanted to break the bands asunder and cast their cords from us. Most folks in the church, not in the kingdom folks know what it's all about. Although there are some negative connotations in the kingdom arena as well, because when we get to the tares in Matthew 13, it talks about he had to go within his kingdom and separate the tares. So the tares somehow got into the kingdom. Then he said that the only way that the wheat can shine forth as in the very nature and identity of their father, there has to be a separation. So he had to separate the tares and bundle them and cast them into the fire. So that wasn't hell. That fire is the time of testing and trial. And I know most of us who are caught between two opinions can honestly say that there's a test on the horizon. And it's not one coming, it's one that is. All of us are being tested so that we can know what manner of work we are. It's God's mercy that we're not consumed. So he wants to consume the things that are conflicting us. The things that's in our hearts and things in our mind, and the divided allegiance that we have, right? But I believe there's going to be a people in there that's not going to say cast away your cords, or they're not looking to break the bands asunder. They're looking for protocol and principles and the requirements of the new covenant, which is kingdom-related principles, right? Then we went to 4, and we stayed over there and we looked at the sons of the prophets who got a little big for their britches and decided they wanted to go out without being led out by the Father. Amen. They weren't sent out, they went out. Which I'm going to take that time and revisit, because I got a lot of different stuff I heard this morning. So we're going to go back to check it out, because they ended up getting the axe here that was borrowed. And most of the church are not getting their revelation from God. It's borrowed. But God is raising up people that's going to have his edge, which means they're going to have a revelation from the heart of God, straight from God. They don't have to go and buy it. They don't have to go to seminary and get a borrowed axe head. They can get it from the throne of God. Thank you. I thought it was pretty good. And we talked about having your focus broken and all that good stuff. Which brings us to point number 5. Let's go to point number 5. I know I got celebrations going on, so I can't be myself. Oh, thank you, baby. Micah 4. So we're going to still have, I'm going to need some of your time. I ain't going to take all of your time. But we still got an agenda on hand. I mean, we're going to make, a little sidebar honoring the gift that's before you, but there's a greater gift in the midst. Amen. I mean, that's the kingdom of God and his agenda. So, Micah 4. So we're talking about let us. Then we're going to make some affirmations, hopefully, if I don't get stuck in these 4-5 verses. Hopefully I won't. Micah has a sister passage in Isaiah. Isaiah, I believe, 2, chapter 2, verses 1 through 5. You know, and most of our theologians, the theologians of the old order, because there's a new group of theologians that's being raised up in the earth. And they're not necessarily going to have a proclivity to restore old ideologies, but they're going to be a group of men and women across the globe that's going to stand up flat-footed and declare the oracles of God. And I believe that there's a theologian in all of us.
Yes.
I believe there's a theologian in all of us. I believe it. I mean, he may be suffocating, he or she may have a few deficits here and there. Maybe stuttering, I don't know, staggering, who knows. But all of us, because the Spirit of God is the theologian. He is the wisdom of God. The wisdom. Y'all know that the Spirit of God is the wisdom of God. Okay. Verse 1 says, "But in the last days it should come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord," underline the mountain of the house of the Lord, should be established in the top of the mountain. You need to underline the top of the mountain. So you have a mountain, you have the house of the Lord, but then all of a sudden, a monkey wrench get in there, and it's the top of the mountain. So there's a plurality, but a single value. It's a plurality. A single value. And I was tempted to talk about the 7 mountains, because they're actually, it's more than 7, but they kind of cookie cuttered it. And it was a big book a long time ago, some years ago, by John Enlow, and everybody else kind of, Lance Walner, kind of jumped on the bandwagon. And that's what the big fight is really about, the political arena. That's why everybody, a lot of folks are headstrong for Trump. You know, it's because they want to make sure that those mountains come down. And they figure he'll be the man to do it. And in spite of all the lackluster of Christianity that we see in his persona, we just know that he has a hammer in his hand, but we don't know why he's swinging. Okay, established in the top of the mountains, right? So the top of the mountain. So there's the mountain of the house of the Lord, or the Lord's house, as Isaiah says it. So the mountain, and then there's the Lord's house. So they're synonymous. This mountain has the house of the Lord in conjunction with it. But this mountain is above other mountains. Can we say that? Okay. It says, should be established on top of the mountain. It should be exalted above the hills, and people should flow unto it. Oh, there's a flow coming in. I'm telling y'all. Ooh, I felt that one. Maybe I'm in the wrong church. Verse 2. "And many nations," not some, many nations should what? Come. When are the nations come? Let me just go over it. And it's come and say, come. Right? As a result of the mountain, which is the house of the Lord, or the mountain, we just say, I like Isaiah's version, the Lord's house. So the Lord's house that's established or in conjunction to or similar to or in synonymous with the mountain. The mountain, the Lord's house is the mountain. The mountain is the Lord's house, right? That's to be exalted and established on top of or above all other mountains. And it says many nations should come. That's the luxury of the new covenant. The Old Testament, one nation came. And if you got lucky, somehow you got engrafted into it. But in the new covenant, all nations, many nations, have an invitation to come to the Lord's house. The Lord's house, right? Okay, yeah. Come, it says, and this is where I got out of let us. Come and let us go up. Why you got to go up? Because it's exalted above. So you can't go down. You got to go up. Let us go up.
Yes.
Let us ascend.
Yes.
Let us change the way we think. Because we got to go up. Let us go up. Not the preacher, not the leadership corps, not, you get what I'm saying? Not the grand poobah, not the brand name one, not the most anointed, you get what I'm saying? Let us go up. So it's a corporate sound. We must go up. We're not just going up without any vision, without any purpose, without any significance. Right? Y'all know that, right? Yeah, like, that's a trick question. No, it's not. It said, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, or the mountain of the Lord. And we need, oh boy, let me hurry. And to the house of the God of Jacob. And he would teach us of his ways. Now, first of all, please underline the God of Jacob. The God of Jacob. I'm here to tell you, most of us, we've been prophesying, and I got men and women that's friends of mine that we've been talking about there's a greater day, a greater glory coming. There's a promotion on the horizon, the body of Christ, the whole amalgamation is coming. We're going to be fitly framed together, and we're going to be a true representation in the earth, which I totally believe. But there are some things that has to happen before it becomes a reality. If it doesn't happen, if we in our own incentive, if we don't have the ambition to participate in what we hear, it will never, ever move beyond the pages. It has to be a stamp within our DNA. There has to be a conviction in our heart as a people. Right? Let us